Today, Disneyland, along with all of the other parks around the world, represent a significant portion of Disney's annual revenue. The theme park industry is massive, and the success of Disneyland is, well, kind of a no-brainer. That wasn't always the case, though, and at a time where Walt Disney needed to find funding to make the dream of Disneyland a reality, he found help in television. So first, why would he even need help funding the park? Well, by the early 1950s, Disney Productions would have shareholders, and the company would finally be pulling itself out of some hard times that World War II brought on. Walt had this idea for a theme park, but as far as the shareholders were concerned, Disney was in the film industry, not the amusement park industry. So in order to regain some control, Walt established a separate company that was originally called Walt Disney Incorporated. To avoid confusing it with Disney Productions, it would eventually get renamed to WED Enterprises, with the WED standing for Walter Elias Disney. He would transfer his name and likeness rights to the company, and then turn around and charge Disney Productions for the use of them. It diverted money to Walt, who could then use it to work on Disneyland development without having to worry about what the shareholders thought, since they didn't have any ownership over WED Enterprises. It was a complex situation. It ultimately led to a long-lasting rift between Walt and his brother Roy, and it's definitely a good topic for its own future video. For now though, back to Disneyland. Walt Disney was in the film business, so the company's main products in the 1950s were short and feature films that ran in theaters. So it was odd to some that Walt would embrace the medium of television when its popularity began to rise. Most studios at the time instead chose to shun the new industry. They perceived television as a threat to film, one that would steal away their audiences and their profits. Where others saw a threat to avoid, however, Walt saw a tool to take advantage of. Television networks at the time were eager to work with Disney, and Walt realized that he could use this opportunity to kill three birds with one stone. The idea was to create a Disneyland television show. The weekly series would consist of stories and segments that aligned with the theme of the various lands in the Disneyland theme park. Additionally, it would be a show in which Walt would be able to show audiences previews of what the theme park would be like. Lastly, part of the business deal behind the show would be seeking funding for Disneyland's construction. Walt shopped around this idea to the three major networks. CBS and NBC both declined the deal, mainly due to the focus put on funding the theme park. Remember, theme parks weren't really a thing at this point, and so the networks found it strange that it was even part of the deal to begin with. The third network, ABC, was desperate at the time for quality content and were looking to establish themselves against their competitors. So on March 29, 1954, they signed the deal for the Disneyland TV series. As part of the deal, ABC invested $500,000 into the Disneyland Incorporated investment pool and would guarantee up to $4.5 million in bank loans. In return, ABC owned 34.4% of Disneyland and would receive all profits from the park's concessions for a decade. With the deal in place, Disney began to produce the weekly Disneyland television series that helped keep Disney in the forefront of the public's mind. More importantly though, it served as a nearly year-long means of selling the public on the idea of Disneyland and promoting it to families. With over 30 million Americans tuning into the very first episode on October 27, 1954, it was a hit. The culmination of everything would come during Disneyland's opening on July 17, 1955, when ABC aired a live broadcast of the park's opening day on Dateline Disneyland. Hosted by Art Linkletter, viewers at home were treated to a look inside of Walt's dream come to life. While the opening day of Disneyland was actually quite a nightmare for guests, another good topic for another video, the broadcast managed to hide it. While the live program, which was a novel concept at a time, had its own hiccups, it succeeded in making Disneyland look like the idyllic magical land it was supposed to be. The Disneyland show would continue after the park's opening, eventually getting renamed to Walt Disney Presents. Disney would also work on two other shows with ABC, The Mickey Mouse Club and Zorro. However, over time, the partnership between ABC and Disney began to sour. Disney wasn't pleased with the terms of their deal and felt that ABC's inferior technology was holding them back from advancements such as color broadcasts. On the flip side, ABC felt that Disney was putting too much focus on the theme park and that the deal wasn't going to be as beneficial for them in the long run. Disney tried to get the courts to dismiss their contracts with ABC, and in a decision to settle out of court, ABC agreed to sell off its 34% of Disneyland back to Disney for $7.5 million. The deal closed in 1960, and by 1961, Disney Productions fully owned Disneyland. As far as television, Disney would eventually move over to NBC, where Walt Disney Presents would again be renamed after getting the color broadcasts he wanted. This time, it would be Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. Today, Disney is just as involved in television as anything else. Disney would start their own channel in 1983, and in 1996, coming full circle, Disney would purchase Capital Cities ABC for $19 billion. It would include networks like A&E and ESPN on top of ABC. The Disneyland TV series was an unconventional idea used to promote an unconventional park dreamed up by an unconventional man. Today we don't think of it much, but television helped make Disneyland possible.